Hey everyone, and welcome to Wildlife Inspired. This is your channel for photography, for wildlife, and for wildlife photography. I'm your host, Scott Keys, and today we're going to be talking about gimbals, only this time, two at a time. Dual gimbals, right after this. Now in today's video, we're going to talk about dual gimbals. And over the last year or so, I've noticed a couple companies making dual gimbals, and I wanted to feature them, get my hands on them, play around a little bit. I got two of these gimbals from B&H Photo, so I want to thank them for letting me use these for 30 days. Got another gimbal from Leo Photo. They have gifted me that, and so I'll talk a little bit about that lens. I'm also going to show you a couple that I don't have here in the studio with me today, but I'll mention them and do a comparison at the end. You know, I like to put some graphics up there and show you all the commonalities and some of the features and some of the differences, so I'll do that at the end. Let's just get started with dual gimbals, and why do you even need one? I can remember years ago pulling up to a wall of photographers, and there was a couple of them that had two of their lenses mounted to one tripod. And I was convinced at that time they were just trying to show off how much camera equipment they owned. I remember one photographer had an 800mm on one side and a 600mm on the other, and it seemed like a little bit of overkill. Now there are some practical reasons to do this other than just showing off, and I'll talk about two of the reasons I think it makes some sense. Now on this setup for this video, I'm going to put my 400mm on this side. Let's pretend this is like a 600mm lens. With my teleconverter, that's about what this equals. And on this side, I've got a 300mm lens. That could be a 300mm or maybe a 70 to 200mm lens, but just a smaller focal length. And it may work well in situations where you've got some birds moving at different distances. Pretend we're shooting owls or eagles, something low flying along a field, or maybe eagles grabbing fish out of the water. Well, there may be times when that eagle comes too close to us and we want to switch to a smaller focal length, or we might just want more scenery. We may not want that really tight super shot, so we might want something that's a little bit more environmental. That gives us an option right on one tripod. In the past, typically what I would have done is put my long lens on the tripod and maybe had a sling with a shorter lens, and didn't always work out too well. Sometimes if there was motion or activity, by the time I put this lens down, I got the other lens up, turned the camera back on, found the subject, it might be too late for that. One of the nice things about these dual gimbals is they move together. So when one is pointed at a subject, the other would be pointed in that same direction, and it makes it a little bit easier to find. Now that's one use case, so two different focal lengths, maybe a long lens and kind of a medium lens. The other use case, and probably the one that I think of is most useful right now, is that I could do still photography on one, and the second lens might be for video. Now in this situation, and this is just the way I prefer to shoot, when I am shooting video, I do like a little shorter lens and I shoot it at a higher resolution. So I try to kind of max out the amount of resolution I have with a shorter lens. I did a video, by the way, on video for the wildlife photographer, and I talked about the differences between resolutions and how I personally use resolution to crop differently in post. And that's one of the reasons I might use a shorter lens. So if I know my output is maybe going to be at 4K, but I can shoot it at 8K with a little shorter lens, it gives me a nice buffer. So if my subject isn't perfectly in the middle as I'm tracking it, you know, with this dual setup, I might be able just to crop it to what I need for my final output. The nice thing about that is I can continue to shoot stills on one side, I can just hit the record button on the other side, and if I've got it lined up just right, I might be able to do both at the same time. It's a little bit harder with birds in flight, but if I was shooting a prairie and I wanted to have some still images from a songbird perched up and singing, but at the same time, I wanted some social media content of that bird singing, I could do them both at the exact same time. And that's really where I think the value of these setups is. Now, in the past, I have done this. I'm going to show you my do-it-yourself. So we're going to start with the do-it-yourself version that I have used in the past. And I simply made a plate, a series of plates actually. I had a bottom plate. Now this would match up with whatever tripod or clamp system you use. Generally for video, you might have a Manfrotto plate down here. For photography, you might have an Arca Swiss plate down here. And then I have these two other devices in here. I'll show them to you closer up. These are called cheese plates. You can buy these. I'll put links to some of this down below through B&H. So these are just called cheese plates. And all I did was mount the cheese plate into these two different plates. And I do recommend a plate on bottom and top. When I did my first version of this, I only had the bottom plate, and I found it to be a little bit of play in there, didn't feel as stable, didn't want to drop a lens. I put this top plate on as well. So if you could see that, and maybe if I hold it this way, you'll see the bottom plate here, cheese plates in between, top plate here. And then I went ahead and just put a clamp on each side. A tip for you if you decide to do this. Find a clamp, and I'll show you the bottom. Find a clamp with 2 holes on the bottom, not just one. Some clamps will only have one threaded receptor on the bottom, so only one socket in here. You want to have 2 threaded sections so you can put your bolts in there and hold it a little bit more securely. So make sure you do that. Now, the one problem you'll have with these types of setups is that both lenses are going to be pointed perfectly straight. Now, that's a problem that is overcome in some of the systems that I'm about to show you today. But one thing you can also do is then add, and I got this suggestion from somebody, is I can add a little panning clamp. So I could put this little panning device in there with another clamp, or I could mount that panning clamp right to the system. And if I do that, it allows me to tilt that one lens just a little bit. Now, I think you can visualize what I'm talking about, but if I've got both lenses pointed perfectly straight and I see the subject perfectly in this one, well, this one's going to be off-centered a little bit. So if I can tilt that lens in and I can line it up, I'm very likely to get them both where they should be in the frame. Now, there is a little bit of a concern with this, and there really is no system to overcome this, but as the subject changes distances, the convergence point of those lenses will change. So if you know that convergent point, this works great. If the distance changes and the subject is going closer and further away, that distance is going to change a little bit. And so they may start slipping in the frame, going either to the left or the right. So just something to think about. By the way, I have used that system, that little do-it-yourself, in my yard to test equipment. So when I'm testing with, I use some of these fake subjects. So when I've just got a stuffed animal or a little fake bird out there, I can easily just put a new camera on the tripod and test it. When I'm testing it with real birds and they're moving, it's a little tougher for me to say like, hey, this bird I took a picture of, and then it's a different bird and I'm taking a different picture of it at a different time. So one thing I've started to do is mount both pieces of gear. So if I'm testing a lens or a body, I mount both of them at the same time in comparison format, and then I take the picture at the exact same time. So if I know where that bird's gonna land, right here, I just take 2 pictures at the exact same time, and I can test the same subject in the same lighting conditions. Everything is identical. So I've really found that helpful for me personally. But again, I think the biggest use for this is probably gonna be to take some stills and videos. Now, that do-it-yourself bracket is not an independent unit. And what I mean by that is it's gonna require something else. So for me, I've mounted that to a fluid head. I'm gonna talk about 2 different types of units. So I'm gonna talk about an assisted unit, and I'm just making these words up, but an assisted unit means it does not work by itself. It needs something else. Generally speaking, it's gonna need a fluid head or a double ball head. I also did a video on different types of tripod heads. You might want to check that out if you're curious about some of these uses. In today's video, I am going to show you a fluid head. I'm also going to show you a double ball head so you can see how they work. The other type of device would be just a standalone. A standalone device might be similar to, and I'll pull one of them out now. This one is by a company called Sunway Photo. I'll get this on the tripod in just a minute. The standalone device will pan by itself, and it will also tilt. So these little swing arms that you've seen on a traditional gimbal will be balanced, one on each side. It will pan and it will tilt. So this is a standalone unit. The first unit I want to talk about today is by a company called Heipi or Heipi. I'm not exactly sure how they pronounce it. And it is not a standalone unit. I'm going to put a picture of this over. So when I looked up this on B&H originally, they had a picture, and from what it looked like, I'll put the picture over here so you could see it. And you may have thought the same thing I did. I thought this was a standalone unit. So I thought those cradle arms swung, and I thought there was a panning base. There is not. This is essentially more of a bracket that functions a lot like that do-it-yourself version I had. So I had to mount that to something else. Now in this case, this is the Heipi right over here. All right, so this is what it looks like. And again, I've got the picture up. I'll flash it again so you can see what it looks like. And it does not move independently. So I need something else to pan and tilt. So what I've done is mounted this to a double ball head. This one made by Leo Photo. There's another company called Flex Shooter, which makes a very, very similar product. And so now I'm using the ball here to pan and tilt. I would not recommend using a ball head ever for this application. You really do want something that has the ability to self-center itself. So if I pull it up, you want something that has resistance to pull it back into place. The other thing I like about these designs is they are lower. So you can see these plates drop low. This pulls the center of gravity down. This is actually a pretty big advantage over my design. My design stacks them up on top, so the center of gravity is much higher. I really, really like this. Couple things about this system. It is a lot pricier than my do-it-yourself version. This one's gonna run you about $400. It's gonna weigh about 2.5 pounds. It does not pan by itself, so you will need a panning device. It does not tilt by itself. One of the things about this though is it is very, very secure. It's very well built. And there's a couple features I really liked about this. So the first thing I want to do is just show you that I can tilt this one arm, and it's just one arm. And you see it here tilting. So if I line this up to the camera, I can get it pretty much so that both cameras are pointed. So it's not out here. I can move it in here, and I can actually tilt it up and down a little bit if I want to. All right, so I've got the ability on this one arm to just make some adjustments. That's really, really nice. The second thing I can do is I can change the height. And I'll show you on this one, since this is my lighter camera, I can raise this up or move it down. And both sides do that, by the way. All right, so I have the ability to get both lenses perfectly pointed at an object. Again, only at that diverging intersection will they be perfect, but I can do that. I can get them at the exact same height and I can point them in. With my do-it-yourself version, it is a little trickier to get them at the exact same height. If my one lens is taller than the other one, they don't always line up great. So one of the biggest advantages for this system is that it is very, very secure. It is very easy to adjust. The biggest drawback to this system is it needs something else. Now, I've got this mounted to a double ball head. I do want to show you real quickly one of the issues that I had with this. And when I tried to mount it to a fluid head, you could see some of these knobs here. This particular knob interfered a little bit with that design. So one of these swing arms over here, you see this little gap? It's probably easier to show you here. See this little gap? That little knob got in the way. Now I could make it work, but it just got in the way. I liked the fluid head actually a little bit better because I like this control arm. So I could move the whole system with this arm. It wasn't too bad though when I was using this system, because what you end up doing, and I'll show you here, is you end up with two hands on it. It's a shame that the shutter release isn't on this hand. So it's moving both at the same time. And this is naturally the way I started to use it. It was very smooth. I will tell you the range of motion is better on my fluid head. Overall, maybe I would prefer it on a fluid head. So this is a really good option if you already own a fluid head that this will be compatible with and it will fit on there, or maybe you actually own one of these double ball heads. There is another option. I'm just going to put it up here because there is one more option that is an assisted dual, and that is made by Flex Shooter. So Flex Shooter has their own design. I don't have it with me. I'm going to put a picture of it up here so you can see. This one is $300. It has a similar benefit in that it will drop a little bit low, so it brings your center of gravity down. However, it doesn't have, from what I can tell, because I've looked at these pictures a lot and I've never used this, but it doesn't seem to have a way to bring that second camera and tilt it. It also doesn't have a way to lift and lower. So while it's a really nice option, it's only $100 less. I gotta believe, and again, if this is a great option for you, I'm not trying to steer you out of it. I gotta believe for the $100 extra, if I was going this route, I would probably go with this one because I get more adjustments out of it and it's a little bit more robust. I wanna mention the weight again. I think I said this was 2.4 pounds. It's actually 2.8 pounds for the Heipi. The Flex Shooter is 2.4. I'll put all of that up at the end so you'll get all the stats and information about each lens. Okay, so this is that first dual system I wanted to talk about. This is another assisted unit, so it needs something else. The Flex Shooter is going to be assisted, and then if you do one of my do-it-yourself versions, that's also going to be assisted. Now I'm going to switch over. I'm going to cut the video here. I'm going to pull this one off, take it apart. I'm going to put two other heads on here, and I want to show you how those work and what my thoughts are on those. So I put a new tripod head on, and I want to just show you what this looks like. I'm going to show you some pictures. Sometimes in the videos it's hard to see the product. So I'm going to do a couple of close-ups on these just to show you. The one that's on this tripod is made by Leofoto. By the way, I didn't mention this earlier. I like to mention any of the equipment that I show in here. The tripod here is the Leofoto 403. I have a really nice relationship with Leofoto. I really do enjoy their products. The 403 is really great. I actually talked to them about designing this tripod, and these are the specifications I like. I like 3-leg tripods that are about 61 inches tall, and I like a wider diameter on the leg, and that's exactly what they did. So go check out, if you're looking for a tripod, the Leofoto 403. I'll actually put a link down there at the bottom. But these two products are made very, very similarly. This one made by Sunway Photo, and let me see if I've got this right. There we go. This one made by Sunway Photo. The one on here made by Leofoto. These are so close in terms of the way they're designed. So they both have like a lockout and tension device here, controlled by tension. So, you adjust how smooth this is just based off of the tension here. Both of them have a panning base. Both of them give you the ability to, and I'll do it on this one, but to fold these up. So you can see that each of these folds up. They each have a device, or a mechanism rather, to adjust the angle, so I can turn this in or out, and once I'm in the right position, and it does it on both sides. Again, both of these gimbals are designed almost identically. Both of these have safety stops, so it prevents you from accidentally removing the lens completely, and they've got little bubble levels in there as well. So I can tilt it in and out. I can raise it up and down. If I didn't show you the raising up and down, let me see if I can get this one going. Hold on. There we go. So I can raise up and down. Now I've already done that a little bit with this one over here. And I can go ahead and just turn this one lens. It doesn't look like it's quite turned in. You can see how easy this is. Let me turn it this way so you can see. All right, so I'm going to tilt it in just a little bit. And if I wanted to tilt this in a little bit, I could also tilt this one in a little bit. I've raised them so they're about the same height, so the center of the lens is about the same. And let's look at smoothness. Now, I did use this in the field, by the way. Really, really smooth. Really nice action on both of these. I will tell you this, if I blindfolded you, I couldn't tell you the difference between these two. From a specs standpoint, this one was a little bigger, a little taller, and a little heavier, maybe a little bit more robust. That's the Leofoto. This one cost $599. The Sunway Photo cost $459. Now that price changed a little bit, so I'm just giving you the most recent pricing on this. The one thing I will tell you is I offer my affiliate link with Leofoto's really, really good. They gave me a great discount. It works all the time on any product you buy there. So if you want to bookmark it and write my code down, it's Wildlife20. I'll put the code down there. I'll put it in the description of the video as well. Wildlife20 gets you 20% off. So now you're talking about essentially the same price. So $479 with my discount, and then $459 for the other. This one a little bit taller, maybe a hair more robust, but both almost identical outside of that. There's a couple things that both of these did, and I'll show you when I tilt this. The range of motion this way is really good. I mean, you're never going to need to point down more than that. If you go back on this tripod, the way this was set up, it would want to bump this tripod leg right there. Now, again, I don't know why you would ever want to shoot up that tall as a wildlife photographer, but if you did, just know that that was like the one little drawback. With a true gimbal, you can normally swing that all the way up. But yeah, just that little bit here. But really smooth. You can see the action. I know you can't feel this through video, but trust me when I say this feels really smooth. When you add weight to a system, often it makes it feel smoother. When you use a really light setup, any friction can be detected in there. So if it's a stiff unit, adding weight to it almost makes it better. But I didn't think this was stiff at all. I thought it felt really, really good. So this one, by the way, I'm keeping this one. This is the Leofoto. This is going to be my new dual gimbal. I can use this to do testing of my products. I don't need to rely on my do-it-yourself anymore. I really, really like this, but it does require me to change that gimbal head on and off. One of the advantages, as I'm just kind of wrapping up some of the thoughts on this, one of the advantages of, let's say, the, what do I do with it? Okay. one of the advantages of this system is if you always use a double ball head, or if you always use a fluid head like this, this can just stay on your tripod. And then that extra bracket or that extra unit just goes on it, whether it's the do-it-yourself, the flex shooter, or that Heipi. Either one, any of those will just sit on this, and then you take it off when you're done, and you got your camera back on here. With this one, you're actually going to change the entire gimbal out when you're doing 2 at a time. I would say for the most part, I do this very rarely in the field. There are a few times when I have set this up to do video and stills. I will continue to do that in those cases. This is the unit I'm probably going to go with. The fluid head had a lot of benefits to it, but I don't personally see purchasing that in addition to this. So I've got this one. This one's going to be the one that I use from now on. As I wrap the video up, any thoughts that you have, let me know down in the comments. I'm going to end with just some of these stats, some of the summary of this, including pricing. So you can see we go all the way from the top at $600, but again, Leo Photo discount, bring you to $480 or so. And then we go down to the do-it-yourself version that I made. I'm going to put $100 on here. I don't know. You can mix and match parts and probably get it even a little cheaper than that. Maybe a little bit more expensive, depending on how you decide to build it. But I'll put $100 up there for that one. And that's my video for you today. Again, I think it's got some applications. Really liked getting my hands on this and testing it out. Hope you found this one helpful. Let me know down in the comments, did you like the video? Any questions you have? Did I not mention something that you're curious about? And if you're not subscribed to the channel, I don't know why, but if you're not, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Hit the like. That's going to send this content out to people that are interested in wildlife photography or photography equipment in general. And then make sure you hit that bell for notifications. That'll let you know when I have a new video out. And as always, I hope we can continue to find inspiration in wildlife together.